Okay, you can start whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Keith Thompson. I'm the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs in the College of Engineering. Today, Dr. Marlena Lester, who is the college's Director of Advising, and myself are going to talk to you about joining the College of Engineering and adjusting to life at Virginia Tech. Marlena and I are part of a broad system of student support at Virginia Tech. We are here to help support you through your time while you're earning your Bachelor of Science degree. We both want to thank you for choosing Virginia Tech for your college experience. Today's orientation is going to contain a lot of advice that you're going to need to know on how to be successful in college, particularly in an engineering program. This presentation is packed full of information, but most of the things we say today will be reiterated throughout your first year at Virginia Tech, so don't worry if it doesn't all sink in today. Marlena, let's move to the next slide. So Virginia Tech is recognized as an educator of high-quality engineering students. And what that means is there will be very high expectations of performance for you, but you're also going to be offered many opportunities to participate in engineering competition teams, undergraduate research, and interact with a lot of other students of similar capability and passion as yourself. We admitted you here because we think you have the potential to be a successful student. That doesn't mean that you won't face various struggles adjusting from high school life to college life, but that sort of struggle is very common, and it's a good opportunity to learn and mature. The other thing to be aware of is that the College of Engineering at Virginia Tech is very big. In fall of 2024, we will have almost 10,000 undergraduate students in the college. That size is what allows us to offer things that a lot of smaller universities would not be able to, such as more options for majors, more options for specialized student experiences, and so on. However, it can also be very easy with that size to feel lost. So understanding how to identify sources of help at Virginia Tech will be a very important skill for you to develop. Let's move to the next slide. So I want to talk a little about expectations you should be prepared for coming to Virginia Tech. Your experience here will be different from high school or from any community college that you've been at in a lot of ways. First off, your life management is likely going to be very different. No one is going to be directly monitoring you. You're going to have a lot more autonomy to make your own choices, but you will need to master your own time management, study routines, and juggling of your academic responsibilities. At the same time, you'll also need to solve other types of day-to-day life tasks, such as getting your laundry done, keeping your space in order, eating properly, managing money, and so on. I'm sure that some of you are already used to this, but for many of you, this will be your first time handling so many of these things on your own. In addition to navigating life, students also need to learn how to navigate the university. By this, I mean the numerous rules, requirements, and deadlines that are common for a large university. We have rules about academic standards, rules for academic integrity, rules about degree requirements, timelines for adding and dropping classes, changing your major, and other critical matters. And we don't grant many exceptions to these rules. You will need to be conscious about deadlines and plan things to make sure you meet those deadlines. Most deadlines you will encounter at Virginia Tech are strictly enforced, whether it's a due date for an assignment, a deadline to apply for some opportunity like a scholarship, or a deadline to take action on a university process such as adding or dropping classes. We also have a large bureaucracy of many different offices and specialized personnel, which can be confusing to work with. However, each of you will have an academic advisor who is typically the best first stop for any questions you have. You're going to need to spend time figuring stuff out, and it is best if you become your own advocate in working with faculty and other personnel across the university. Most of the faculty and administrators I know are thoughtful, understanding people, but there will be limits on how much they can bend policy. It is a good thing for you to have to adapt to these types of tasks. Doing so is going to allow you to come out of college much more ready to live on your own and juggle the routines of life while you're starting a career. Let's move to the next slide. I cannot stress enough how much you will need to check and read your emails. Your vt.edu email is going to be the official contact method between the university and you. Make sure that you check it regularly. During the academic year, we try to help our students by sending messages regarding upcoming deadlines and other requirements. Please keep an eye out for those messages and make sure you read them. Do not let your emails get assigned to your spam folder. Up until recently, we've been using the email associated with your application for admission, whether that was a Gmail account, a Hotmail account, or something else. You should have already received instructions on how to set up your vt.edu email by now. If you've not already done so, please do that after this orientation. With all this said, you should not expect immediate responses when you send someone an email or expect to be able to meet someone if you just drop by their office without an appointment. All of the advisors work with many students and likely have some other tasks that they're responsible for. It's not unusual at all for them to be fully booked up on any given day. Timeliness in asking questions will be very important. The need for urgency is often not necessary if you've been proactively reading the communications, if you're aware of upcoming deadlines, and you're paying attention to what you need to do before those deadlines. Let's go to the next slide, Marlena. So I want to talk a little bit about your classes. Instruction at Virginia Tech may feel very different from the instruction you've had at a high school or at a community college. There's going to be a lot more emphasis on comprehension of foundational theory rather than memorization of formulas or facts and figures. The material may be presented in a much less structured manner than what you're used to. There's also going to be a higher expectation for you to absorb material with less direction, particularly reading and studying outside of class. You're going to need to learn how to be an independent learner. I did not know how to study at all when I first went to college. It was not something I really ever needed to do in high school. I was pretty clever, I could get by. You might be the same. So in addition to learning the material you have to learn for your classes, you might be like how I went through college and find out that you have to relearn how to study and figure out the best methods that are going to work for you. You're also going to want to pay close attention to the expectations of your instructors and start assignments early. Like I've said before, many instructors are very rigid on due dates and they may not accept late work. But they may also expect your work to fit very specific formatting standards, and they may not give partial credit for incomplete work. So don't wait until the day before a due date to begin looking at an assignment. You're going to need that time to figure out the assignment, make sure it's done properly to the expectations that the instructor has stated, and that it's a full and complete piece of work. You're also going to want to set aside time each day to review the material from your courses, even if you don't have something due later in the week. The typical rule of thumb is 2 to 3 hours outside of class for every hour that you spend in class. So for a typical 15 credit course load, that's around 15 hours in class each week, plus another 30 to 45 hours working on assignments or studying outside of class. When you add all that up, it's somewhere between 45 to 60 hours per week. That's more than a standard full-time job. Let's go to the next slide. I want to talk a little bit about the honor code and a special warning about Chegg, ChatGPT, and similar resources. Virginia Tech has an honor code, and academic misconduct is taken very seriously by the university. Sanctions for academic misconduct can include an F-star grade. That's an F with an asterisk after the F that indicates that the failing grade was due to academic misconduct, and that would go on the official transcript. This is the most common sanction imposed by the Office of Undergraduate Academic Integrity. If there are multiple offenses from a student, that can result in suspension or even expulsion from the university. So it's really important that you pay attention to the rules of conduct expected for completing assignments or exams in each of your classes, and those may be different from class to class depending on the expectations of your instructors. Let's go to the next slide. While we do want to encourage students to be their own advocates and do things on their own, we are aware that the bills often get paid by their families, and that families are making a significant investment, not just of money, but time and emotional concern in the success of their students. So I want to speak a little bit about how families and students can act as collaborative partners towards getting a degree. Parents, you're going to want to encourage your students to read their email and meet with their academic advisor at least once a semester to touch base on their academic plans. Particularly at the end of each semester after grades come out, try to have a safe conversation with your students so that you can check on how they're doing. Typically, students should try to earn around 15 to 17 credits each semester, and they're going to need to maintain a grade point average that is at least 2.0 or higher, which is a C average or better, not a C minus for clarity. For some majors, this GPA will need to be even higher. So for example, if you have a student that wants to get into computer science, that is a very highly demanded major. And we've only been able to admit students that have a 3.0 or higher GPA into that major. Let's move on to the next slide. So at the end of each semester after grades come out, the GPA will be recalculated and an academic standing is going to be assigned. If a student is maintaining an overall GPA that is 2.0 or higher, their academic standing will be good standing, and that's where we want all of our students to be. The first semester that a student's overall GPA drops below 2.0, their academic status at the end of that semester will be changed to first probation. If that occurs, the student has their next fall or spring semester to raise their overall GPA, or they could face first suspension. If a student is placed on first suspension, they will need to sit out through the next fall or spring semester. The vast majority of our engineering students do very well. However, around 5% will end their first semester on first probation. About half of that 5% will come back and they'll heed the warning from that first probation status. They'll make changes in what they do in the next semester, the spring semester, and that's going to allow them to get back to good standing by the end of their first year. However, some other students are going to decide that engineering is not a good fit for them, and they'll opt to leave. And around a third of that 5% will continue in engineering. They'll still struggle, and they'll end on first suspension by the end of their first year. It is possible to recover after a student returns from a first suspension. It does happen, but it can be hard. It's better if students recognize when problems are happening and that they start to reach out to support groups, particularly their family, and are able to talk honestly about what they're experiencing. That's what's going to allow them to figure out the best strategy to be successful in the end. Let's move to the next slide. I want to talk a little bit about what we call FERPA, which is the Federal Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It's a federal act. As officials of this university, Marlena and I have access to a variety of academic information about students. However, we cannot talk to families about students unless we have permission from the student to do so. Student academic information is protected by FERPA. The permission is provided by the student assigning a passcode to their family members. If a parent calls myself or Marlena or any of our academic advisors or other people at this university, we will ask for the parent to provide a passcode, and we'll then verify in the system whether that's the right passcode for the given student. We have to do that before we're allowed to give out any information. Students can grant access, FERPA access in Hokie SPA, and they can also allow access in Hokie SPA for a parent to check the system directly rather than contacting a person at the university. We have some instructions on the slide you see right now. So let's move to the next slide. So before I wrap up my part of this presentation, I would like to emphasize that some of the different ways that we try to support student success at Virginia Tech, and particularly in the College of Engineering. So for one, we have a counselor from Cook Counseling Center who's embedded within the college. She works exclusively with engineering students. The university also maintains a Student Success Center that provides tutoring, support services, and other types of academic support. And our largest program, which is computer science, also maintains their own tutoring service space, which is located in Torgerson Hall. We have a group called SWAT, and that stands for Software Assistance Triage, which is also located in Torgerson Hall. Their job is to help with any computer or software needs that a student has. So for example, if a student desperately needs their computer to finish some project, but that computer starts to have issues or goes bad, they can go to SWAT, and SWAT will either be able to fix it or they will provide a loaner computer to that student to get their work done. I also want to mention the Dean of Students Office. They're a good resource if any life emergency comes up. I strongly encourage parents or students to contact them if there's any death in the family that's going to require a student to take time off from classes. And I also want to mention the college's Center for the Enhancement of Engineering Diversity, which is called CEED, C-E-E-D. Among their various services, they offer a peer mentoring program. And what that does is it pairs freshman students with upper level students. They also manage our living learning communities, Galileo, Hypatia, and Digerati. If you have had any disability accommodations in high school, such as an individualized education plan, an IEP, I strongly encourage you to contact the Services for Students with Disabilities office at Virginia Tech and make use of accommodations here. I've seen a lot of students try to forego the use of accommodations in college with very mixed results. Accommodations are always handled in a discrete fashion, and they're designed to provide a fair learning situation for students who are authorized to have them. The website shown on this slide provides links to all of these resources. Lastly, if you are feeling a little overwhelmed thinking about college and the changes this is going to bring into your life, I just want to say that that's normal and it's perfectly fine. College can be a very up and down experience until you get used to it. In the first year, you may encounter homesickness, loneliness, uncertainty, feelings of insecurity, anxiety, or depression. You may have been a top student before and then find that you're much closer to average at Virginia Tech. You may just plain feel lost in your courses. It's okay to go through any of this. Looking back at my own college experience, the one lesson I wish I had learned earlier is how to ask for help, whether that was academic help, help figuring out how to manage different expectations, or just counseling when I was having rough spots in my life. I did not use the resources that were available enough when I was an undergraduate. Even though I did fine later on, I could have done better had I been less stubborn about getting advice or looking into campus resources. I just want to say it's okay, it's normal, and it's okay to experience any number of problems when you first go up to college, and you can recover from a certain amount of bad grades. But it does become harder if you don't talk to others when you need help. So lastly, let me just reemphasize that you're now a Hokie and you're part of the Virginia Tech community. We accepted you because you were qualified to be here and we have confidence in you. Thank you for your time. I'm now going to pass this over to Dr. Lester. She is again the College of Engineering's Director of Advising, and she has a lot of other important information to go over. I also see that we have some participants that have raised their hands, and I do want to mention that we will have an opportunity for question and answers at the end of this session.
Thank you, Dean Thompson. So the part of our presentation today that I want to focus on is giving you a high-level overview of the engineering orientation experience and walk through some of the things that students have already been provided via email, but also to kind of walk through our entire process. So engineering orientation is referred to as the virtual academic advising and course registration process at Virginia Tech. And in part of that program, we have this college overview session that you're attending today. And if you are a student here, your first time in college or a transfer student, your attendance is based on your honor, and that was kind of listed on our first couple of slides. We also have some question and answer sessions that we do as part of orientation, and I'll walk through those in a minute. We will also have the opportunity for you to meet one-on-one with an academic advisor. This is a required component of our orientation experience. And we also will need you to register for your classes through course registration. So the timeline for our orientation experience started back in May. So around May 6th through the 20th, you would have received a welcome email from me. It came through our email system at the university, and included in that email was our engineering orientation checklist. That engineering orientation checklist contained a lot of information about setting up your Virginia Tech username, how to access your Virginia Tech Microsoft Outlook email account, how to make sure you're signing your housing contract if you're living on campus, sending your transcripts and score reports to Virginia Tech, and how to verify all of those details. We try to make that engineering orientation checklist as comprehensive as possible, incorporating many offices and entities across campus so that your experience is pretty streamlined for what you need to do. So if you've missed that engineering orientation checklist, that's definitely one thing that I would recommend that you go back and reference. Around June 7th, you would have received an email from an academic advisor providing details about the mandatory virtual academic advising for your specific program. And between June 12th and July 26th, students are required to attend a mandatory virtual one-on-one academic advising appointment for your major. Dates do vary by the program that you're admitted into. And then once you're done with this, you can also begin registering for classes. Technically, when it comes to registering for classes, that's open from June 12th all the way until July 30th. And you can register for classes it's kind of an ongoing process. So you can register for classes prior to meeting with your advisor or after meeting with your advisor. But we do encourage all students to finalize their class schedule as soon as possible. And so if you've not registered for classes, maybe you're waiting on taking a placement test or whatever it may be, or you're waiting on AP scores to be delivered to the university, that doesn't impact your entire class schedule. So go ahead and try to register for as much as your schedule as possible. Between June 12th and July 24th, we will host these sessions, like the College Engineering Overview session and the Q&A sessions. The orientation website for the College of Engineering is listed here on the bottom of the screen. We will also post recordings and other details on our website of this session and the other Q&A sessions that we host at the college level. So as part of our College of Engineering question and answer sessions, we did host a session specifically about the computer requirement. So if you missed that one, you can definitely check out the recording on our website. If you go onto that orientation page and you scroll about halfway down, that's where you'll see the links for a lot of our programs. They'll provide their PowerPoint, but the recordings are there for the ones that we've already hosted. You will see one for Hokie Shops. The SEED Peer Mentoring, the Center for Enhancement of Engineering Diversity office, provided us with a Q&A session specifically about their peer mentoring program. Today, I will host a session with Career and Professional Development, and we'll talk about co-ops, internships, and other experiences for our engineering students. And then our final Q&A session for orientation season is going to be on the study abroad programs that are available for engineering students. So again, if you cannot attend those sessions live, you do have the opportunity to go back and watch the recordings if you'd like. On that website for the engineering orientation page, you'll also see a lot of orientation specific resources. There's where we reiterate the orientation checklist. We have specific details outlining the ALEKS placement, which is only required if you're taking math and chemistry at Virginia Tech. If you already have prior credit for those classes, that's not necessary. Also, we have details about the specific computer requirement, all of the specs, RAM, hardware details that you need to know. Their office is the SWAT office that Dean Thompson mentioned, and they also provide all of those. If you have any specific questions, you can also reach out to their area for support in that. There is a section on our website specifically dedicated to how to self-evaluate your transfer credits if those credits are not already on Hokie SPA. There is a couple things I will share around AP specifically, because there's a lot of questions that we're getting right now from the advisors. AP scores, the main big download that we get every year, that has already happened. That happened on July 8th. So if your AP scores have not been posted on Hokie SPA, then you definitely want to make sure you contact College Board and have them resend your scores to Virginia Tech. Another note there is that if you do have AP credit for a class and you accidentally enroll in that class as a duplicate credit, Virginia Tech does have an AP duplicate drop report that runs pretty often, I think weekly, to remove any students who accidentally enroll in classes that they have AP credit. Our recommendation across the board for if you have AP credit is to always accept that credit and move on to the next level of the course. We've done a lot of data analysis on the success rate of students who have AP credit, and that has been our recommendation for quite some time. When it comes to your degree requirements, if you're curious about what classes that you have to take for your entire 4 years, you are able to go ahead and locate the unofficial advising guides on that check sheet and advising guides section of the website. so you can plan out all of the classes that you'll have for your entirety of your degree here in the College of Engineering. You'll also see links and resources for our course registration process. We also will talk specifically about what major restrictions mean in a few minutes. And then also, if you're curious, if you're admitted as a general engineering first time in college student, and you're curious about how you transition from general engineering into one of our 14 degree programs, there is the specific requirements on the change of major page that outlines the 5 courses that you have to complete, the 12 GPA hours that have to be completed at Virginia Tech, and the 3.0 guaranteed GPA necessary to be guaranteed your first choice major. We also have details about the resources and support there. That was the slide that Dean Thompson walked through that has all of those support for counseling, tutoring support, resources. That's a great website for you to bookmark. And we also have a frequently asked questions section on our orientation page that has details about the AP. It has details about should you accept your credit or move on, those kinds of things. In addition to the orientation website, we also have individual Canvas sites for your particular population. So for example, if you're a transfer student, you're going to see a College of Engineering virtual academic advising and course registration Canvas site that reiterates a lot of these resources. We also have a Canvas site for general engineering where you have to go through certain quizzes and modules before you gain access to meeting with your academic advisor. Building construction also has a Canvas site for you to be able to connect directly with the building construction program. So we've tried to kind of outline some of the resources that you will need as also a way of transitioning you to the university, giving you exposure to Canvas, which is our learning management system that you'll also use for your classes. A lot of times we get tons of questions about where to send your transcripts and score reports. And so I want to reiterate here that you have to send all of your official high school, college, and university transcripts to the Office of Undergrad Admissions. You can sometimes have the entity that those credits are coming from send them directly to the university. That usually can come through their offices to the university. You can't send them yourselves unless you're just going in to access them online through a community college or another four-year school. You request them to be sent to Virginia Tech Office of Undergrad Admissions. You also want to make sure you send all years of your official score reports, your AP, IB, CLEP, Cambridge, or any other kind of credits that you're planning to have credits for and want to see if Virginia Tech would award equivalencies to. You need to send those to the Office of University Registrars, and there's a school code that you specifically put in for most of those agencies to have them sent to Virginia Tech. Now, you may be curious about how do you know if Virginia Tech has received those? And there is a great way for you to go onto our HokeySpa system and evaluate your records, make sure that you have all the official records on HokeySpa. And you are responsible as a student to make sure that those are accurate. If you notice any inaccuracies, you do need to let us know. It is critical that you ensure that all of those expected credits reflect correctly on HokeySpa. And so when you go into HokeySpa, you can go into the grades menu and then you go to transfer and other additional credits. And that's how you can see if Virginia Tech has received AP, IB, CLEP, Cambridge, all those kinds of things. IB typically comes at the end of July, so hopefully in the next week or so. AP, like I said, that should have already been here at the university if all of that went appropriately with sending those scores to Virginia Tech. The Virginia Community College classes, if you took dual enrollment, you want to make sure that you had sent those directly from the college that you took the classes to Virginia Tech. And also earlier I mentioned that you need to have your high school transcripts sent to Virginia Tech. You will not be able to see if your high school transcripts have been sent, but admissions will notify you if they are still missing that requirement. So if also on your HokeySpa screen, if you see a notation that says send syllabus to credits at vt.edu, that means we might need a little more information about that particular course to determine its equivalency. So you do need to comply with that request before Virginia Tech gives you an equivalency evaluation for that particular area. If you're a transfer student and specifically out of state, you might see that for multiple courses. And so you do need to get the syllabus that you had for when you took the class. And if you can't find that, you'll go back to your previous institution, either the department or the instructor directly, and ask for a copy of that syllabus for those credits to be evaluated. Earlier, I mentioned our change of major process. And so for the majority of students admitted to the College of Engineering at Virginia Tech, you're admitted under general engineering. And there's really two types of programs at Virginia Tech, not just in the College of Engineering, but there are restricted degree programs and there's non-restricted degree programs. And what that means is a restricted program requires that you have certain classes or GPA requirements before you can transition into that program. And in the College of Engineering, if you are admitted as a first-time in college general engineering student, you have to complete the change of major process to be admissible into one of our 13 degree programs. In addition to these degree programs, we also have the building construction program, which does not have any specific admissions criteria for internal transfers or students that are already here who want to change over. You just have to apply to change your major at the end of a fall, a spring, or the end of a summer term. So we only accept change of majors 3 times a year at Virginia Tech. If you're a transfer student, you're probably already directly admitted into one of those programs. There's a few minor exceptions where students are transfers in general engineering, but most of our transfer students are admitted directly into a program, either one of our 13 degree granting restricted degrees in the College of Engineering or building instruction. In the College of Engineering, across the board, all of our programs are comprised of a certain degree requirements. And earlier I mentioned the unofficial advising guides, and we'll talk more specifically about that in just a moment. All of that, of course, is located on the orientation website that you can specifically look at your degree that you're wanting to pursue. And so on the degree requirements, there's components of the degree. So you have your general education requirements, which is typically about 39% of your degree. You have your degree core, that's about 24%. You have your major requirements, which is about 22%. And you have your elective courses. And every program is going to vary in those credits anywhere between 122 credits to graduate with to 129. So that is why in the College of Engineering, we have a recommended course load each semester of 15 to 17 credit hours. So each semester, we recommend that you have that 15 to 17 credit hours so that you can graduate within 4 years. And so that's kind of how that is structured within all of our programs within the College of Engineering. So I already mentioned the unofficial advising guides. Those are on the orientation website. So that outlines all classes that you have to take for your entire time at the university. Those degree sheets are what you will use as an entering student who came this fall or summer for the undergrad catalog year of 2024 to 2025. That requirement sheet will be what you utilize the entirety of your program. That sheet is going to have your all those degree requirements that I just mentioned, and also any specific policies or procedures related to that program. It's going to also outline any term offerings for specific classes and minimum grade requirements. So some of our programs might require a C or better in a certain class, and so you'll be able to see that notation on those advising guides. One of the things that Dean Thompson mentioned is your kind of first point of contact is being your academic advisor, and all students have been assigned an official academic advisor. You can view who that person is on Hokie SPA under View Your General Student Information page and also on Navigate. Navigate is our system where students can make appointments with their academic advisor. So you can view who your advisor is on Hokie SPA under View Your General Student Information. So if you don't know who your advisor is, number one, I would encourage you to go back and start verifying and checking your Virginia Tech Microsoft Outlook email account, because they would have emailed you. And that's a great way for you to be able to see who that person is that's been communicating with you and comply with any of their requests. Mm-hmm. You also want to touch base with your advisor at least once a semester, like we mentioned, and talk about your academic progress, how you're doing your grades. If you have questions about course registration, questions about campus involvement, any academic and career goals that you might also have. And you will utilize the Navigate system to make an appointment with your advisor. As a first-time in college student, you will be invited to make an appointment on Navigate through an email invitation. And so it'll give you a link to make an appointment with your advisor as part of our orientation experience. All other students would be able to work with the advisor to make sure that you're getting into the Navigate system as well. In order to be a full-time student at Virginia Tech, you have to have at least 12 credit hours. That's to be full-time students, usually required for students who are living on campus, who receive financial aid, if you're an NCAA athlete or an international student in the United States on a visa. So full-time status is kind of that minimum requirement in order to be considered a full-time student at the university for all of those entities. In the College of Engineering, like I've mentioned a couple of times, and even Dean Thompson mentioned, we recommend 15 to 17 credit hours each semester. And that's because of the additional credit hours required for most engineering programs. Also, if you're a member of our core cadet programs, you might be in 17 to 19 credits, depending on if you are bringing any other additional credits into the Virginia Tech transfer equivalency process. 19 credits, however, is the maximum number of credits any new student can take. So we will not authorize any new student to take more than 19 credit hours during their first term of enrollment. For course registration, previously mentioned that you have had access to course registration as a new student since June 12th, and you have that access all the way up until August 30th. However, you want to finalize your class schedule sooner rather than later. And so for advising and appointments, all of that's going to end as an ideal timeline as far as deadline of meeting with your advisor is going to be July 26th. So make sure you are trying to get in there for that. The reason that the ability to do class registration extends beyond the orientation season is because our continuing students at Virginia Tech regain access to registration, because right now they can't register. They regain access to registration on August 5th. And then that for them, if they need to make any modifications to their schedule, because they've already pre-registered for a lot of their classes back in back in the spring semester. So around March, April, they will then finalize their class schedule. So for you as a brand new student, you have access to registration now. You can go into Hokie Spa and under course registration and schedule menu and be able to access it. You have a couple different tools that you can utilize to register for classes. You have a system called Hokie Scheduler. You also have Add, Drop, and Schedule. And so those are great resources to utilize to actually register for classes. One of the things that we also want to make sure that you're aware of is that some of the courses that you're trying to register for might be major restricted. So meaning that only students that are officially enrolled within a major or a set of majors can enroll in that particular section of the course. So if you're trying to register for a class, but it won't let you, but your advisor has recommended this class, then it might mean you have to choose a different section of that class or a different time, date, instructor. And you can use the timetable classes or the class search feature to see the term that the class is taught, if it's a general education class or pathways, the subject of the course number, the course request number, and also the course modality. And in the search results, you can select the CRN on the far left-hand side to view any of the prereqs, co-reqs, and major restrictions. So I was working just yesterday with a student who was trying to register for a class over in the College of Science. And they were like messaging me and they're like, it won't let me add this class. It's because the particular section they were trying to register was reserved for students in the major in that college. And so they had to select a different section. And that's pretty typical during orientation, is that students will have choices within certain sections of classes. And then at the end of summer, at the end of class registration season, if there are any remaining seats, most programs will open those up. But definitely want to try to finalize your class schedule with the options that you have right now. When you go in to register for classes, definitely make sure you're doing that now, but you do want to complete all the prepare for registration items before you can begin. Those are things like updating your emergency contact information and other details that are necessary before you can get into that system. Once you do register for classes, you want to make sure that you are viewing your final class schedule under Hokie Spa Classic Student Schedule View. This allows you to see all the details of that particular schedule. You can see the course request number, you can see the course, the prefix and the number, the modality, you can see the title of the class, the grading option, credit hours, the time, the days, the locations, the instructor. And also you can see your final exam schedule. And so this is where it's very important if you are planning to depart the end of the semester to go return to home, or maybe you're planning a vacation, or you have any kind of travel arrangements. You want to make sure you're checking your final exam schedule first before you book a flight or before you book a plane, any of those kinds of things, a bus or a train. Make sure you're checking your exam schedule, because your exam schedule could be a different day or a different complete time than what your actual classes are delivered during the normal fall semester. So make sure you are utilizing the exam schedule there. And I always recommend that you also consult with your professor on the first week of classes to make sure that the exam schedule that's listed is the exam schedule that's going to follow with that particular course. There are a couple upcoming dates and deadlines that I want to make sure that you're aware of, but you can view the complete academic calendar on the registrar's website. This is one of the things that I ask you to bookmark on the engineering orientation checklist. It's one of the items there that gives you all of the dates and deadlines for the entire academic semester, and you can see it for a couple years out as well. But for fall classes, they do begin on August 26th. The last day for you to add any new classes to your schedule is going to be October 30th. And so at that point, no new classes can be added to your schedule. But the last day to drop a class is something you're already enrolled in. Let's say you're in 15 to 17 credits and you are deciding that maybe that's too much for you and you want to drop down and have fewer credit hours. Then the last day for you to drop a course without grade penalty is going to be October 8th. But the actual orientation registration process, that's going to conclude around July 26th. So try to make sure you are finalizing your class schedule by then. If you are interested in staying informed with us and you are interested in social media, we do provide resources on our College of Engineering website for our social media platforms. On the screen here, I outlined a few of the ones that are specifically college level, but if you are interested and you're already admitted in a particular program and you want to follow that department's social media accounts, I encourage you to go onto this website and link out to it and do so. It's a great way for you to stay informed about the happenings of the college. We also try very, very intently to not overwhelm you with a lot of emails. Right now it may not seem that way, but we also got to figure out how to manage our email accounts and understand what's important to us. And so there is one resource that we will also highlight as you start the semester, and it's called our Engineering Opportunities Facebook page. Our Engineering Opportunities Facebook page is something that we will post internships, co-ops, jobs, things that we get from researchers or things we get from employers. Rather than emailing you that every time we get a request, we will send those to the Engineering Opportunities Facebook instead. So that's a great way for your email to also not get inundated with those kinds of details. As a few final reminders for me, I want to make sure that you're finalizing your class schedule with that 15 to 17 credit hours. If you feeling a little lost, it's okay. Start out with the orientation website. That's a great way to give you the timeline, the orientation checklist, and kind of list out all the things that you need to do. That's where you're going to see the degree requirements that you need for your 4 years here at Virginia Tech. And you'll also want to be able to mark your calendar, students. So if you are a first-time in college student, in general engineering or building instruction, or a transfer student in one of our programs, you want to make sure that you are marking your calendar for a College of Engineering session. Dean Thompson and I and our Student Engineers Council and a couple other offices will have a presentation for you on August 21st, 22nd, or 23rd. The date that you attend that session is dependent upon your move-in. All transfer students or any students living off campus will attend on the 23rd, but the specific details of that is also on the engineering orientation checklist. We will also host a college social, and that's going to be on Friday, August 23rd. That's going to be from 2 to 4. You arrive based on specific statuses. So if you're in our Hypatia or Galileo living community and Digirati, you'll attend at a specific time slot for your arrival. And we do arrival times because we want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to come to the social. You'll pick up a Padfolio, which is a great giveaway. but you'll also have an opportunity to talk to our departments. Our advisors in our programs will be there. A lot of the department representatives will be there as well. Several of our offices that we do orientation sessions with will also be there to address any questions or concerns that you may have. So those are kind of the big highlights that Dean Thompson and I wanted to talk with you today about. And so what we will do now is we'll turn it over to any questions that you might have. There is a Q&A feature in this webinar that you can indicate any questions you have. And what I'll do is I'll answer a lot of them live. That typically tends to be the quickest way for us to address any questions that you might have. But I do want to thank you all so much for being here today. And I really appreciate all the attendance and compliance with all the things that you need to do, of course, as a new student. And definitely, if you've not registered for your classes, please work toward that completion as quickly as possible. But thank you all so much for today and have a great one.